Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome. This is a University of Roehampton online webinar. I'd like to welcome you today. Today's subject is going to be research project success. We have a great panel of people, which I'm about to introduce you to here. Today's panel features Emily, Natalie, Marta, and Stephen as your moderator. I'm going to start by asking Emily to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Emily Mackelberg. I work in student support for the last couple of years, and I've been working particularly with students who are in their research projects. So I'm really glad to be here and help support the new batch of students coming in.
That's great. Natalie, would you say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm academic manager for research for University of Roehampton Online, and I have PhD and Doctor of Science degree, and I'm also full professor in international finance. For University of Roehampton Online, I teach research methods, and I'm also responsible for the research project process, and I work with supervisors and Module 7 faculties. I'm also principal editor of World Economic Journal, and I really welcome this opportunity to talk about the research project process. Thank you.
That's great. And Marta, Marta is soon to be a graduate of the Human Resource Management program. Marta, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your research project?
Yes, sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Marta Guarneri, and I'm connecting from Madrid, Spain. I submitted my project in August last year, and just recently in February I received confirmation of my grade. I haven't been to graduation yet. I'm just waiting to be called for that. I can't wait actually to go to London and assist the ceremony. My project deals with the impact of the family dynamics on the expatriation cycle, with a focus on the international human resource practices. And it's a topic that I'm very passionate about. I'm an expert, and I've been an expert. I've been traveling around both as an international assignee and expat wife for the last 20 years. So this topic is really has a lot of value for my personal and professional life.
Wow, that's great. Marta, we're going to hear a little bit more about you and the research project. Marta, we're going to hear a little bit more about you and your research project as we go along. What I'm going to do right now is cover our agenda for us. We're going to cover the definition of a research project. We're going to talk about the preparation module, which is known as Module 7. We're going to talk about Module 8, which is the research project itself. And we're going to talk about the support that's available to you. And then we're going to end with a live Q&A session. One of the things for you to remember is that you have a Q&A box. Enter any of your questions whenever you want to, and we're going to collect them for the end and ask our panel. So, Natalie, can you talk to us a little bit about what is a research project?
Yes, sure. First of all, research project is a culmination of every master student studies. Research project is a product of the final module of each student's program, and it's determined as students' eligibility for a master award. And research project is 26 weeks long module, in which students are expected to demonstrate their knowledges, and also expected to demonstrate their research skills. Actually, normally research project is from 10 to 12,000 words in length, and yeah, as I said, it's a culmination of the every master student studies.
Wow, sounds pretty big. What about a mindset?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about research-driven mindset. We say a person has a research-driven mindset if a person is curious, if a person is self-critical and self-reflective, if a person likes to ask questions and likes to find out how to answer these questions. Research mindset means that person is creative and likes to develop creative thinking and critical thinking skills. And some additional and very important characteristics of research mindset is also being persistent, especially when it comes for search for truth. And it's also important to appreciate learning new ideas and linking these new ideas. And of course, research mindset means that the person likes to challenge themselves and manage the time effectively and being well organized.
Marta, would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I really think that a research mindset also has to be triggered by something that you really are passionate about and something that you really are willing to look more deeply into. Because otherwise everything becomes very sterile. So I would add that passion is very important for that too, but also not just passion, also you have to be realistic as well, because you have to be passionate about something, but have the knowledge that you have material to work on, you have data you can search. So it's a mix of rationality. To me, a research-driven mindset is a mix of passion and rationality.
That's a good answer. Emily, can you help us understand what's different between this and, say, Module 4 or Module 5?
So the difference between the previous modules and the last module for students is that they're really taking the driver's seat in this module. They're becoming their own teacher. That's why we have a difference between instructors and supervisors. When you get to your last module, you are really the person that is driving your topic, driving your research to completion, and the supervisor is there to, of course, assist you in that endeavor. And like Marta said, you should choose a topic that is of interest to you, because you'll be spending 6 months on it, and you're going to have to embolden yourself and encourage yourself to be interested in that topic for the entirety of that experience, as well as looking at it from a rational point of view and saying, it's only 6 months, so what is going to be practical to get done in that time?
Great, thank you. Natalie, we don't just put them in Module 8 and get them going. Can you talk a little bit about Module 7, the preparation module?
Yeah, so Module 7 is designed to prepare students for Module 8, and actually in Module 7 we have some key additional activities comparing to other regular modules, such activities as research project topic formulation and approval, supervisor search and supervisor match approval. Also students are supposed to draft and submit their ethical forms and get them approved. And also, as a result of Module 7, students develop their research proposals, and they submit them as a final project for Module 7. So on a successful completion of Module 7, students are prepared for Module 8.
Great. One of the things you talked about was the topic. What makes a good topic?
Actually, I absolutely agree with Marta and Emily that topic should be interesting. So good topic is interesting topic because students spend even more than 6 months because both Module 7 and Module 8 devoted to this particular research topic, and students devote all their efforts and all the time to develop and to investigate this problem. So good research topic is an interesting topic. In addition to this, the research topic should be clear, and it should offer easy and clear understanding of the nature of the research project, and it should have single interpretation. It's also important to have laconic and well-focused and well-formulated topics. So normally Module 7 faculties help to students to formulate and to make these topics laconic, and it also should be well phrased and well defined. And of course, a good research topic should be in current importance and beneficial for the field and related to the program, to the students' program. I would say that good topic is a half guarantee of successful research project completion.
How do you know, and I'm going to put an example up in front of you here in a minute, but how do we know a good topic from a not so good topic?
So as I said, it should be laconic, well formulated, and it should be interesting, and probably Marta can add something how she formulated the topic as and if she considers her topic to be good.
I would say that if you can add a little bit, a certain degree of originality, it really helps. Because from the literature review, you realize that in certain fields, some topics are really very used. So if there is some originality that you can add to the topic, it probably helps. And also, it's not just the topic itself, but also the way you decided to research it and to present it as well. In my case, my topic is not really very common, but plus what I added was an autoethnographic component to the research, which is really pretty rare in the literature review, and that probably added value to my research.
That's great. That is great. Okay. Was it as easy? I mean, you're talking like it's all pretty easy. I mean, you pick something you're passionate about and you start to research it and you start to study about it. Is it really that easy? Or, I mean, why do we need supervisors and help with this? Marta?
Yes. So the supervisor and your relationship with the supervisor is absolutely key. It's crucial. My supervisor, Dr. Barbara Wilczek, made it easier in the sense that she was very present. She gave me loads of very good advice and reasons for it. We made some changes from the topic that actually the topic was the same, but let's say the cut and the methodology that we used was a little bit different from what I chosen from Module 7. For example, in Module 7, I was sort of fixed on using mixed methods. But Barbara, actually from day one, she convinced me that wasn't really that good idea, given the time frame and the topic as well. And she gave me great reasons, and I immediately went, of course, I changed my mind. So I just, set the research on this in-depth qualitative approach with this ethnographic addition. And so, yes, it's not easy, but if you do it and following the advice of your supervisor, which is really there for you, it's a partner, it's the greatest asset that you can have. And it really makes sense to establish a good relationship from the beginning. I know that everybody is different. Not all the supervisors probably have the same attitude, but try to become friends, to become partners, to send material very often. I remember writing reflections and sending Barbara some reflections, even off schedule, because of course it's really important to follow the milestones and steps that the university gives you, but you can actually add something more if you are in doubt, and if you know that maybe that you're going to derail from the schedule for some reason. It really makes sense to let your supervisor know and ask for help. That's the main thing. They're there for helping you, so it's great to take advantage of it.
That's perfect, and I think partnership is a great word for that, because it really is. Natalie, can you tell us a little bit about the actual process of securing a supervisor?
Yeah, students can start contacting potential supervisors when research topics approved in Module 7. However, prior to 7, students can go to Center for Student Success and find research project area, and all supervisors' profiles are there, so students can review these profiles and to read about supervisors, about their research interests, about their publications and modules they teach. So students can review supervisor's profile any time in the Center for Student Success research project area. But in Module 7, students formulate research topics in Unit 1, and then in Unit 2, Module 7 faculty approves research topics, and once a student gets the research topic approved, they can contact supervisors via campus email. Actually, each supervisor profile includes contact details, and students can contact supervisors, potential supervisors, and if supervisor by the way, students, when contacted supervisors, students are expected to provide the research topic, the research background, the methodology they are going to apply, and to give a couple of paragraphs about their research topic. So then supervisors review this information and this research topic, and responds to student, and confirms he or she is happy to supervise this topic. So then student to report this match to Module 7 faculty, and Module 7 faculty approves the match with the supervisor. However, if a supervisor doesn't have free places in their research project classes, or for instance, if the topic is not within their research interest, they can reject a student's invitation to supervise their work. So in such case, students are supposed to contact the other supervisors, and sometimes students contact up to 10 supervisors in order to find the right person. So it's not a problem, and it's not a way to give up and be discouraged or disappointed if some supervisors has rejected the invitation to supervise their research project. So sometimes it takes time to find the right person.
Well, I mean, what Marta was talking about was a partnership. And so it isn't, I mean, you really are looking for a good match, and it isn't necessarily going to be right from the start. Now, we've talked about timeline, we've talked about topic, we've talked about supervisor. What would be next to talk about? Ethics. Natalie, can you help us out a little bit with this?
Yes, ethics is a very important issue here, and actually research topic and methodology need to take into account ethical implication of what students are planning to do, and the University of Roehampton Online considers the risks to students and to any participants involved into the study. As a researcher, student needs to obtain form, consent form, potential research participants, and the student also is expected to minimize the risk of harm to participant, protect anonymity and confidentiality, and not to put at risk any vulnerable individuals. Again, in the Center for Student Success, we have research project area, and we have the separate section for ethical process and documents. And I would like to encourage all students to look through these documents and even thinking about their research ideas prior to Module 7 to consider ethical documents, because we have a document with suggestions how to consider ethical issues prior formulating topic, and even prior to Module 7, because some students face challenges if they don't get ethical approval in time, and they cannot start Module 8 without ethical approval.
Okay. It's incredibly important. And Marta, can you tell us from a student perspective, what was this like for you?
Yes, of course. There is a long list of ethical issues that you have to consider, and everything is very well explained. So what you need to do basically is just go through it. And then again, if there is something that is not clear to you and you don't know how to handle, your supervisor is there. In my case, since I was doing interviews and my participants were actually disclosing sensitive information, a very important issue is the protection of identity. So you have to make sure that you are keeping all the, in my case, it was interviews, it was focus groups. You have to protect the identity of your participants, keeping your interviews in a safe place, and it was basically it. I mean, and then it's just a matter of following the instructions as well, and it's also a matter of common sense, because, for example, you know that you have to keep your data secure, and you have to have them available and not to lose them, and make sure that nobody actually can tamper with them. So it's common sense plus complying with a long list of points.
That's great. Emily, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of summarize the last 3 main topics: finding a research topic, getting a supervisor match, and going through the ethics approval process. All of these are done as foundational pieces to your research. So you're doing this in Module 7, and the work that you do and the research you do and the decisions you make in this module will directly correlate to your success later. And like Marta said, you can do some modification with your supervisor in that module, but if you have thought through the scope of your research and how you're going to go about that, the feasibility as well as the different topics available to you and resources available to you, if you do that in your Module 7, you're really setting yourself up for success in Module 8.
Thanks everybody. And speaking of Module 8, Natalie, could you cover that for us a little bit?
Yeah, students, when students are ready to start research project, so research project on Module 8, first of all, we check eligibility of students. So students should pass all previous modules from Module 1 to Module 7. Also, they should not have any academic integrity investigations, current, not open academic integrity investigations, and they have to get supervisor match approval, research topic approval, ethical approval, and if they get everything ready, so they can start Module 8. And Module 8 or research project differs from other regular module as it's 26 weeks long module, and students work with their supervisors on one-to-one basis. And in the classroom, supervisor creates individual group for each student and creates different threads. For instance, in this individual group, students will have such forums as, for instance, ethical approval and a research proposal, where students are expected to post their approved ethics and research proposals, and by the way, local approval and permission, so all documents related to ethical process and research proposal. Then also we have forum for drafted chapters and also forums for progress reports. By the way, students are expected to report their progress every 4 weeks to supervisors and discuss their progress. And also we have a thread for drafted chapters where supervisor provides feedback on regular basis. So module 8 is module 8 differs from regular modules, and it's designed in order to work with supervisors on one-to-one basis.
Wow. Okay, good. Thank you. Marta, you talked earlier about a partnership. However, it's really not an equal partnership, is it? Can you talk a little bit about basically your role and your responsibility as the student in your final research project?
Well, my responsibility, of course, is to work in an honest and ethical way. That's for sure. And to do the best you can do, given the time constraint, for example, which is an issue that the students need to keep in mind, because you have just 6 months, and 6 months really fly by. So you have to make the most of these 6 months from day one. So with this partnership, it's really important to develop it from the very beginning. So my responsibility was to do the best that I could, because it was my one opportunity to complete this project. Then in certain sessions, there are some extensions that you can get, but this 6 months is your opportunity to give it all. So to complete a process, because for everybody, the decision to attend a master's degree is an important, and actually it requires effort and sacrifices as well. So you have 6 months to complete it, and you have to do it. So you need to ask for help and collaboration to your supervisor, but also to make sure that you ask for help even involving the people around you. For example, in my case, I'm married and I have 3 kids, and they were aware that what I was doing. So they knew that I was really determined to finish what I was doing and to do my best. So I asked for their collaboration, and that's what you need to do. Ask for help to make the best that you can of your 6 months' time.
That's a great statement about really involving. I mean, it's not just between you and the university.
No, it's between you and your environment.
Yeah,
in your environment as well, because we don't live on an island. So and you don't have to be afraid to ask for help. That's the thing, that sometimes we are very proud. So if you need to finish and you need to do a good job, ask for help as well. Invest in help. For example, if you have kids and if you need help with the kids or with the work, or just do it, because it's the best you can do for yourself as well, because it's something that you're doing and that you need to do it well. You need to reward this time.
Well, and the truth is, the investment you're making now will pay back your entire family too. I mean, it's there's 2 sides to that. But Emily, do you have anything from a support perspective on this to add?
Yeah, so in the final module, students can sometimes feel a little bit lonely when they step into the classroom for the first time and they don't see their fellow student colleagues there. And I would like to say that this is a time to feel self-empowered, to both find help in your personal life or your professional life to make sure things are continuing on in a positive way, but also academically. And of course, that comes from your supervisor, but it also comes from student support if you need to talk through what's happening, how you're progressing, what to do in certain situations. Your student support specialist is always there for you. All you need to do is reach out to us. In your role as a student, you're there to be both your own cheerleader and your own timekeeper. So you're going to be best served when you're the most active. So if you're the most active in the classroom, seeking out the advice of your supervisor, committing yourself to creating content to get feedback on, this will continue to drive you in both your energy and progress in your research.
Perfect. Natalie, can you add a little bit, maybe talk to us a little bit about the difference between a supervisor and an instructor? Kind of what's the supervisor's role and how is that different from what students are used to in their modules?
Yeah, so as I have already mentioned, students and supervisors work on one-to-one basis. And as Emily mentioned, some students really feel lonely because we don't have any shared activities and in supervisors' classes, and students have just individual groups and go there and communicate to their supervisors. And the supervisor is responsible to support and guide students, and supervisors answer all students' questions, and supervisors also review drafted chapters and provide feedback, and but it's students' responsibility to consider this feedback and improve their final research project. And also supervisor guides students how to submit research project, and also provide comments on Turnitin report. And a supervisor also checks if students follow the ethical issues mentioned in the ethical approvals forms. And yeah, but I agree with Marta that it's like some kind of partnership, and good relationships between supervisor and students are very important in this regard, because it's for success of the students' research project. But students are also expected to follow the suggested timeline and timelines, and to report their progress in order supervisors can help them to ensure the continuous progress and to submit their research project in time. Yes, Marta mentioned that we have extension option. Yes, we have it, but it is, I would say it is the very last option, and I would like to encourage all students to make timely submissions, because research project extensions can be provided only in exceptional situations, under exceptional circumstances, and the students should support their extension requests with relevant documents, and the ethics committee, not supervisors, but ethics committee, not ethics, I'm sorry, mitigation circumstances committee considers these issues and approves or rejects the extension request. So it is very important to work very closely with supervisor in order to ensure continuous and timely, continuous development of the project and its timely submission.
Thank you. Natalie, did you find like you had enough time? I mean, how did that work? How did it work with time management and meeting these deadlines?
Yeah, actually on this slide it is suggested timelines for research project process, and we suggest to start with a research process design and literature review and writing introductory chapters. Then weeks 5, 8 should be devoted to data collection, and then students could start data analysis and interpretation. And we expect that the first draft of the research project is prepared approximately 1 month before final submission, and in order supervisors could review their drafted version and to provide feedback. By the way, supervisors need time to provide feedback as soon as it's a big part of work, and supervisors have 10 days to provide feedback on submitted drafted chapters, and that's why students should keep it in mind. So if they submit their research project in advance, like suggested in this timeline, approximately 1 month or 4 weeks prior final submission, so supervisor will have time to review it and provide detailed feedback, and student then will have time to consider this feedback and improve the final version.
Right, and again, different from a module in that the work you're doing is perhaps a bit more involved and a bit more intense, and therefore the review and the feedback is going to take a little bit more time. Now, Marta, the same question kind of to you. I mean, from a student
Yes.
perspective, how did you keep up with these timelines? I mean, what did you do? And I mean, I know it's doable because you're about to graduate, but what was your experience like?
No, I think that this schedule is really well done. So I would really suggest the students to keep it and try to maintain all the, you know, the deadline and the steps and the milestones that are indicated. In my case, I would always aim to deliver, to submit my work a few days ahead of the deadline, because to make sure that some, you know, in case of emergencies or unexpected events. In my case also, I had an international move actually in the middle of my project. We were moving from Colombia to Madrid, and I knew that it would take really a lot of my time, and another stressful event in a stressful period. So I let my supervisor know what was going on. Barbara knew, and we tried to anticipate a few of the steps. But also it depends on the kind of investigation that you are doing. In my case, for example, it took very long time to transcribe and translate all the interviews that I had. I had focus groups. And some focus group actually went on for like 4 hours, because it was focus group of expat wives, and you can imagine all the chit chat a bit about, apart from the very useful data that they were actually providing me with. But it was very emotional as well, and it was a really a good moment as well. But it took a long time. So. And I knew it, and so we modified a bit the schedule, and my supervisor actually helped me with that too. What else? It's really important that you make the best of your time. I was doing lots of night shift in my case, because during the day I had my work and the family, so I really made the most of my nights. And also another important thing is that try to have everything in digital, and have your work and your reading, everything with you. For example, I had everything with in my mobile phone, and you can have your mobile phone or your laptop, or actually usually the tablet is much easier. And I would actually work in every spare moment that I had. I was waiting to get into a meeting, and I would write some reflections. I would wait for the kids to finish rugby practice, and I would translate some of my things. So have everything available to make it easier, and to make the best of every moment, every spare and free moment that you have. That's I think that this is really worth it, because if you put together that half an hour plus half an hour, then it makes a lot of time. Just don't wait for the perfect moment to work, because you won't have it. And again, it's not 6 months.
Right, well said. Don't wait for the perfect moment because it won't come. Okay. We're going to move on quickly. Maybe, Natalie, could you tell us a little bit, we're stepping back a little bit towards Module 7 here, and can you define what a literature review is for us?
So students make initial literature review in Module 7 when they formulate research topics. They start to review the relevant literature relevant to their research topics, and normally we expect that in Module 7 students use at least 10 referred journals articles in order to make this initial literature review. In Module 8, in the final research project, students are expected to have a more comprehensive range of relevant literature, and literature review should provide discussion of relevant concepts, theories, modules, and the sources and literature used should be up to date and of sufficient academic quality. And we encourage our students to use the university library and to find articles and other academic sources there and use these sources. And literature review should also demonstrate students' critical attitude towards the problems they investigate, and students are expected to integrate and contrast the findings presented by the other authors and find the research gaps in order to fulfill them in their future research. And it's also important to find research practice gaps if students have practical topics. And it's also very important to have literature review linked to the research questions not to discuss separate articles, but to integrate and contrast their contents and findings, linking them to research questions. And it's also very important to follow Harvard referencing style and to provide correct references and citations.
Perfect. Now, how does this tie into methodology? I mean, some people are doing qualitative, some people are doing quantitative research.
Yes, and some do mixed, some have mixed methodology. Like Marta said, she planned mixed methodology, and then supervisor suggested to avoid it. Yeah, the methodology. When formulating their topics and reviewing the literature, students are expected to understand what kind of methodologies were applied to investigate the particular research problems, and to compare and contrast them to each other, and formulate or to choose the appropriate methodology to investigate their particular research problem. Qualitative methodology means that no numbers involved, and it's good for gaining in-depth understanding of reasons and to provide insights into the setting of a problem and generate ideas and hypotheses. So no numbers involved in qualitative methodology. As for quantitative, it aims the quantification of data, and it allows generalization of the results from a sample to an entire population, and it also allows measurement of different views and opinions. So all data collected and provided are numerical and analyzed using mathematical and statistical methods. And as I mentioned, we also allow to use mixed methodology. However, students need to argue why they are going to use mixed methodology and to consider the risks associated with its application.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Marta, did you have something to add here?
Yes, it really pretty much depends on what you're studying and also the time that you have to do it. In my case, in the beginning, as I said, it was a mixed methodology that I was setting my mind onto, but then I realized that for the time and also for the the population that I was studying, it didn't make any sense at all. Plus, in the literature review revealed that qualitative studies weren't actually very common, and it was something that would add value to my research. So that's why I completely abandoned the idea of the mixed methodology. In the beginning, it was the idea based on a survey plus interviews plus focus groups plus. It would become really unmanageable. Plus, the survey can be tricky. So people that decided to do a survey need to know that it takes a long time to send it out and receive it back. And second, it's difficult to evaluate, in the sense, if you, for example, if you send out a survey, a questionnaire that you haven't proven before, you risk to receive some answers that don't lead towards what you want to get. I can make an example of a good friend of mine. She was a very good student, and her topic was very interesting, but she formulates the questionnaire in a way that by the time she received all the questionnaires back and she started analyzing all the data she had received, she realized that they weren't going where she wanted to. So the questionnaire wasn't analyzing actually the aspect of her topic that she wanted to analyze. And so by the time that she had to reformulate and send out other questionnaires, we were nearly at 4th month of our research, and she got in distress, and actually she had to recover, and well, that didn't go very, very well. So you really have to pay attention first to the topic you're researching, the kind of research, and the time that it involves.
Right, thank you. And you've touched on the next slide, which has to do with your findings and following up on what the information provides you. Emily, can you talk to us a little bit about support?
Sure. I actually want to kind of encapsulate a lot of what we've talked through, because everything is so very interrelated. Your topic drives your research question drives your methodology affects your timeline and where you're going to spend your time, whether it's in that data collection piece or whether it's in your analysis piece like Marta did with her qualitative research. And all of that drives what you can say in your discussion and your results. So all of these pieces build one on top of the other. So it's important to pay attention early and reflect often on how things are going. So if there's modifications needed, you can do them along with help from your supervisor. So in addition to your supervisor, there's also student support, myself and my entire team here to help you when you get stuck in your research, or whether you have questions about how to go about something. You can use us as a tool, or you can go on to the support tools in the Center for Student Success. We have the library, we have Grammarly to help you with your writing skills. The Writing Center tutors will help you not with the content area, but with how you're developing your paper in general. And then we also have some really great skills units that look at research, how to deal with research, how to deal with data, and looking into those skills. We oftentimes find that students in our programs are first-time researchers. So there's a bit of trust. You have to trust that the timeline set before you is tried and true, because you don't know how long it's going to take you to do data collection or your data analysis. So we've given you a template to work with, and you can finesse that within. But the same goes for these skill units in areas that you might not be adept at right now, to look at those. And you can do those anytime in your program, all available on the Center for Student Success.
That's great. Thank you. Marta, before we go, we're about ready to start with some live questions coming from our audience. But Marta, before we go, do you have anything to add about what Emily just said relative to the support available?
Yes, the support available is there, and make sure to use it because they've done it for a long time, and they know, and there are some issues that are very common, so they know how to handle them, and then again ask for help, and it's there. And so I think that probably after the supervisor, the support center is your second best choice. And yes, just use it. Another thing that I really wanted to add is, again, regarding time management. The analysis of the data is the most important part, is a crucial part of the research, and it comes at the end. So it comes at the very end sometimes. So some people really rush it through. And it's really, it's a dangerous process, because you really need to make sure that your results and are consistent with what you've done so far. So just I would like really to suggest to leave a bit more time than what is scheduled on the time frame, because sometimes can be tricky. And so just allow yourself to be there for a certain amount of days on this data analysis, because it's really, really important and can't be rushed.
That's perfect. You know, Marta, I'm going to ask you to close with something. You and I had talked when we had our conversation before about your final steps before submission.
Yes.
You had a couple of really practical things to say, and I'm going to ask you to drop them on the table before we go to the question and the answer session.
Yes, about proofreading, about rereading, about having somebody to do it. I'm talking about content, sorry, just form, not content, because the content is there, but especially if you are not an English, if English is not your first language or not even your second, like in my case. So it's very important that you have somebody that help you reading, and maybe you have to make time to read again your work with a fresh mind. So again, we are at the end of the project, and we're really rushing for time, but you have to let it settle, decant a bit your last version of your work, and reread it a few times with some days of distance, and it's very important. And of course, the other important tip is to make backups.
Save it.
Send it to accounts that you have. Send it to your partner. Send it because just in case that the worst of the worst happens, that you lose everything, somebody has it. Somebody that you trust, of course. So that's very, very important, especially if you plan to travel, and you know, so backup, save, and make time for the last 2 weeks are really, really important. So that's about
great.
it.
Ladies, thank you. We've got some questions that have come in from our audience, and the first one I'm going to take care of pretty quickly, which is, will this webinar be recorded and be made available? Yes. It's being recorded as we speak, and each and every one of you will be sent a link within a couple of hours. So yes, and if not for some reason, then get a hold of your student support person. Life will be a good thing. Next question. Wow, I think, Natalie, this is going to be for you. May I ask what is expected in the chapters of the research project?
Normally, a research project includes from 5 to 6 chapters. its normal structure, 5 chapters, and the first chapter is introduction, and students are expected to formulate their research questions, research aims, objectives, and to provide background. Then the second chapter is literature review, and we talked about it, so and the major parts of it. Then the next chapter, chapter 3, includes data obtained and their analysis. In some cases, the students split this chapter into two, for instance, for results and the results analysis. However, one chapter for this is also appropriate. And yeah, then as I mentioned, data analysis and data discussion is very important part, and then we have research chapter for research conclusions and recommendations. So this is normal structure, but each supervisor will, you know, guide students and to talk in more details what should be in each particular chapter. Besides, we have resources in each supervisor's classroom which explain the assessment process and what will be assessed in each particular chapter. So students will have all comprehensive information about it.
That's great. Thank you. Marta, I have one for you here. It says, Marta mentioned that data collection and analysis can be time-consuming. How soon ahead of, say, your submission or your first draft should you start your data collection? And I think part of this question is asking, can you start it prior to Module 8 or prior to Module 7? Can you begin to do this before you actually get into this module?
It depends on, I'm not sure actually, because it really depends how sure you are of your topic. I mean, you have to be approved, you have to have approval for your topic. So it doesn't make any sense to waste time on something that maybe you can't use. So I'd say that after my data collection, I started when I was already in Module 8. Once I had everything else settled, and in my case it was focus groups and interviews. I started right away. I don't remember exactly, but it was probably, I started in Module 8 in March. Early April I started with my sessions. So it really depends on how you structure your data collection, but the sooner the better, of course. And also a thing that might be kept in mind, that you might want to do a pilot of your data collection. In my case, I tested my list of questions, my question guides for the focus group. I tested them with a mock focus group. I submitted my question to a selected expert wives, and asked for their opinion and feedback on first the questions, the way I was handling the session, and general feedback. So, and that's important, because once you start your real data collection, you want to make sure that you're getting what you need. So without losing time and wasting time. So the sooner the better, but making sure that you're doing it right. So you can actually do a pilot. If you're doing a survey, do a pilot with the questionnaire as well. And that's a good piece of advice.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Natalie.
I would like to add to this question. Students cannot start data collection without ethical approval, so it's very important stage. First, students need to get approved topic and then ethical approval, and only after only when they get ethical approval, they can start data collection. So of course, it makes sense, as Marta said, the sooner the better. However, only once ethical approval, only once they have ethical approval to collect data.
Yeah, go ahead. I think one of the things Marta was talking about was the difference between, I think the term he used was real data collection. and that you did a lot of work to be prepared. At the same time, you were really, really clear on what your topic was going to be. But at the same time, you run the risk of not getting that particular topic or ethics approved. And so you want to be careful about how much time and energy you put into data before you have the approvals, because you may end up going back. Martha, what were you going to say?
No, your data, exactly, there is an ethical issue as well, and you are going to be aware of these ethical details just at the very end of Module 7. So it's very difficult for you to plan a data collection when you don't know exactly what the variables are going to be. So I would really discourage somebody to start data collecting, because then they risk not to be able to use them. Because if you start, for example, doing interviews and you don't have these ethical issues like the approval, sorry, I don't remember
the ethics approval, yeah.
The ethics approval, I mean, doesn't make any sense.
Right. And then you risk going back. So you're best waiting. I mean, we showed the timelines, and it's best to be following on that. One other question here. We're talking about literature review in journals, and there's a question about what's considered an up-to-date journal. Natalie, maybe you can answer to that. When does the information become too old to be used?
We don't have certain time frames, you know, so how old these journals or articles could be, but students are expected to review new articles and new academic sources, and also consider those of you know, sufficient academic value. So again, if the supervisor will guide the student and suggest how to choose these articles, and yeah, we encourage students to use the library, the university library, and its collection includes both sufficient of significant academic value journals and articles, as well as up-to-date academic sources.
Perfect. Okay, one final question. I think, Emily, this is going to go to you. Do the marks for modules 1 through 7 count towards module 8?
No, those are separate modules. So your grades for those are independent from your final module. You'll earn a final module grade based on your research project and that submission.
Great.
Pretty easy.
Okay. Folks, I'm going to say thank you very much. We've had a great day. I thank the ladies here. It's been a wonderfully informative hour, so to speak. Once again, ladies, I'm going to thank you for your time and your input and all your valuable information. And I'm going to say thank you very much to everybody who attended. I hope this was informative. And be sure to watch University of Roehampton online for future webinars. Thank you.